Um, so this artwork is acrylic on canvas, and what it depicts is a dead oryx, and it's an oryx I found in Namibia next to the road. It's in its rotten kind of state, you know. So it was like a dead thing next, you know, like a dead antelope. The reason I use that is because in government emblems they always use these like animals jumping, and so that's a play on that. It's kind of subverting that. And then underneath is a dead German soldier. And so mirrored there, so there's like a round pattern, and mirrored on the other side is a deformed hand, and it's a hand with two thumbs. So that always, when I make a hand, a deformed hand, is a symbol for that things are not quite as they seem. So it's not, something's wrong. So this whole artwork is about how today is today's politics is based on the Second World War and the death of the Germans, and how they have been made the cartoon villains of society. So whatever that implicates, but that's kind of the idea of this artwork. So it's all of our politics is based on the triumph over this one nation. So the baby I found the baby in a medical museum in India. The museum was called the Jipner Medical Museum, and I'm not entirely sure what was wrong with it, but it was a stillborn baby, and it was just such a beautiful thing for me. And I know everyone else might think it's an unbelievably grotesque object, but for me there was a beauty in its deformity. And that's why I wanted to make the sculpture. I kind of wanted to bring the beauty to the forefront, but yeah, maybe that's just me. So this artwork, this drawing of these figures here was an incredibly complex drawing to make, because there's a whole crowd of people, and then there's these two gas mask men who are fighting in between. So it's from the First World War. Obviously they're either training or they are just playing around, but you know, so they're fighting with a bayonet. And then over there, that's Lord Kitchener, and he's a central part of a lot of my work. He's a very interesting figure. So, you know, and the reason I use him is he was one of the saints of power in the UK. So during the Victorian era, the empire of the British Empire had some of the leading figures in the empire were venerated kind of like saints, and you would be able to buy little plates with their faces on it, and you'd be able to buy little posters with them on it. Lord Kitchener is actually the one who's on the poster that says "Your country needs you." So that's why I use him, but he was a very evil man too, unbelievably evil man, to the point of, you know, you can maybe compare him to Hitler or someone, yet he's venerated today even. You'll find lots of places called Kitchener, or streets called Kitchener, or, so it's that whole kind of, you know, the victors write history, and he was obviously one of the heroes. So, you know, that's kind of why I'm using him. And so I've put this bandaged hand here, and it's got like a arabesque type pattern, but I've painted it in a kind of church window type way, like a stained glass kind of window, to give it like a holy reference, which plays upon the holiness of Lord Kitchener. This is a drawing So I draw with a paintbrush type implement, and this drawing depicts Lord Roberts, and Lord Roberts was really big. He was one of the generals in the First World War, but during the colonialist era, when Britain had its empire and everything, they had people who were really big players, and Lord Roberts was one of them, and they were I refer to them as the saints of power, and I compare that to kind of how the Catholics have the saints, because these people would be venerated by putting them on plates and even toys made of them, and on posters, and like common people would be very, very familiar with them. So this artwork was made kind of as it's a play on the way that government emblems are made, and so with the symmetrical way that it's done. And Lord Roberts was actually a very evil person. I mean, I wouldn't consider him a really good guy, but history is written by the victors, so that's why we think of him as a good guy these days. So this is 2 guillotines, French Revolution guillotines on the sides, and a First World War tank, which, crazy enough, the First World War tanks were still drawn by horses. So they did, so if you see the images of the First World War, they like draw the tanks with horses through the mud. This is a coelacanth, so there's 2 coelacanths here, and a dead oryx. So the oryx is it's a play on the way that they do these government emblems with the buck, spring buck, or the antelopes jumping. But then there's this rotten kind of roadkill thing. It's a play on those government emblems. So these 3 artworks is a little bit different for me. The first time one of the first times, especially on the scale that I use gouache paint. I got the gouache paint here in the UK, and so the idea with these 2 artworks is I made a play more on, instead of using so much pattern, I've actually used the animals' scales, and the animal scales over here kind of as a pattern, and that's something I want to work towards. Instead of using patterns per se, use the scales of or use drawings themselves as the pattern. This one depicts a coelacanth, which is a living fossil. That's also the pangolin over here, which is also a living fossil. And the idea of that is, things aren't quite what we think they would be. So we predicted that certain animals shouldn't be alive anymore because we find all these old fossils of them. But then you find like the coelacanth, which, according to our predictions, shouldn't be there. Then there's the spaceman. He's in that from the space station, actually, which for me is the height of human technology. And then here, this is a depiction of a child being held down by 3 people, and it's some sort of medical illustration where they're doing some sort of medical procedure on him, but they need to hold him down to do it. So this encompasses the sort of human nature for me, this artwork. Then this one, so this is a baboon mummy, which is a representation for me, a symbolic representation of knowledge wrapped up and preserved. Or at the same time, because that's the way that symbolism works, is, it's not just knowledge, but it's something bad that we've kept, and it's our human nature that we've it's always there, no matter how you wrap it up. And that image, the baboon mummy, I found the baboon mummy in the Cairo Museum. So, that's something I use quite a lot. this artwork over here is one of the, well, it might just be the first landscape that I've done, at least in recent times. So, you know, the main thing for me about this was to get this kind of sense of loneliness. And, you know, it's, no matter what we kind of do, there's this lonely world out there, you know, this kind of lonely world. Right. Thanks for watching. If you want to find out more information, my Instagram is @Peter Mammes. So it's PeterMammes, and my website is www.patterndiscord.com, and the gallery is Hoxton 253 Art Project Space, and it's on 253 Hoxton Street.